I never believed in the paranormal. Not ghosts, not spirits, and definitely not Ouija boards. I thought they were just cheap wooden toys, a trick of the mind, a game people played to scare themselves. But after that night, I know better. It was the early 1990s. I was in 9th grade, hanging out at my friend's house with 3 other girls. We weren't doing anything special, just gossiping, listening to music, the usual sleepover stuff, when one of them pulled out the Ouija board. "Come on, we've been talking to this guy named Roger," one of them said, her eyes wide with excitement. "He always answers us." I rolled my eyes. "Yeah, right." They kept pushing, swearing it was real, saying that Roger had been talking to them for weeks. I thought they were full of it, just moving the planchette themselves, playing a prank. But something about the way they looked at me, half excited, half nervous, made me finally give in. "Fine," I said, sitting down. "Let's do this." We placed our fingers on the planchette, and they started asking questions. The small plastic piece slid smoothly across the board, spelling out answers. But I wasn't convinced. They had to be the ones moving it. So I decided to test it. I asked something only I knew the answer to. That day, we had gotten our grades back at school. No one, not even my closest friends, had seen mine. I leaned in, staring at the board. "What did I get in science?" I asked. The planchette hesitated for a moment, then it moved. Letter by letter, it spelled out my exact grade. The air in the room changed. My stomach twisted. My friends weren't moving it. I could see it in their faces, the way they looked at each other, wide-eyed, just as shocked as I was. My hands were ice cold. My heart pounded. I should have stopped there, but I didn't. I wanted more. I asked question after question about my family, about my future, and every time, the board answered with chilling accuracy. Then the board did something different. It started insulting one of the girls. Over and over, it spelled out the same word, B-I-T-C-H, bitch. We laughed nervously at first, but it wouldn't stop. The messages became cruel, targeted. The board hated her. It wouldn't even acknowledge her questions. But me? It liked me. I was the only one it wanted to talk to. I asked for its name. R-O-G-E-R. Roger. "How did you die?" Slowly, the planchette moved. S-T-A-B-B-E-D. Stabbed. The room was silent. Something about the way the board moved, the way it seemed to know things. It didn't feel like a game anymore. I could feel something in the air, something unseen watching us. Then the others let go. I was the only one left with my fingers on the planchette, and it still moved. I wasn't pushing it. I knew I wasn't. But it glided effortlessly under my fingertips, answering my questions, reacting to my thoughts as if it was inside my head. That was the moment I realized. I wasn't playing the game anymore. Something else was. I don't remember how long I sat there asking and answering, caught in the strange pull of the board. I don't even remember how we ended it. Maybe we just stopped. Maybe Roger got bored. But I do remember this. When I finally let go, the air felt different, heavier, like something had settled into the room with us. And even though I've never seen a ghost, even though I've never had another paranormal experience, I still wonder, did we really talk to Roger that night? Or did we invite something else in? I'll never know. But I do know this. I've never touched a Ouija board again, and I never will.
They say the Ouija board is just a game, a harmless piece of wood, just letters and numbers. But after what happened to me and my friends, I know better. It's not a game. It started on an ordinary night at my friend Monica's house. Just the 3 of us, Monica, Lily, and me. We had nothing planned, just the usual sleepover fun. Junk food, movies, staying up way too late. Then, Monica pulled out the board. "Let's try it," she said, grinning. I hesitated. I'd heard stories, of course. Everyone had. But I didn't believe in that stuff. Neither did Lily. We thought it would be a joke. We dimmed the lights, lit a few candles, and placed our fingers on the planchette. At first it was slow. A few random letters, nothing that made sense. But then, something changed. The air grew thick, heavy. The temperature in the room dropped. A prickling sensation crawled up my spine. The board felt different, as if it had woken up. Monica asked the spirit its name. The planchette moved. The letters spelled out something old, something foreign. I don't remember it anymore. Maybe my mind refuses to, but I knew even then that the name wasn't meant to be spoken. Monica asked, "How did you die?" The planchette hesitated, then slowly, deliberately spelled out M-U-R-D-E-R, murder. We exchanged nervous glances. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Monica pressed on. "How were you murdered?" The planchette twitched violently beneath our fingers. Then, instead of answering, it spelled something else. N-O-T-I. Not I? What did that mean? A sick feeling settled in my stomach. Something about those words felt wrong. As if it wasn't saying how it died, but rather denying something. Monica asked another question. When did it happen? The response came instantly. A date, sometime in the 1800s. That was when the air in the room shifted. The weight in the atmosphere was unbearable now, pressing down on my chest like an unseen force. The candle flames flickered, stretching unnaturally long, casting distorted shadows on the walls. Then, the planchette was ripped from our hands. Not slid, not nudged, ripped. It shot across the room, hitting the wall with a dull thud. We screamed. The board sat there, motionless, but the energy in the room was still there, watching. Without a word, we scrambled to put it away, shoving it under the bed like that would somehow undo what had just happened. None of us spoke after that. We just sat there, wide-eyed, listening to the silence, too afraid to say out loud what we all felt. Something had been in the room with us, and it was still there. The next morning, we tried to forget about it. We laughed it off, forced ourselves to pretend it had been nothing. Just a coincidence, just our imaginations. But the thing about coincidences, they don't happen 3 times in a row. 1 week later, Monica's mom died. Cancer, sudden, unexpected. No one knew she was sick. We were devastated. I wanted to believe it had nothing to do with the board, that it was just a cruel, awful twist of fate. Then Lily's mom was hospitalized. Alcohol poisoning, a serious drinking problem, one none of us had even known about. And then, my mom, rushed to the hospital, emergency hysterectomy. The doctor said if they hadn't caught it in time, she could have died. 1 week, 3 moms. Tell me that's a coincidence. Tell me it was all just bad luck, because I don't believe it. That night, something answered us. Something old, something dark. And I don't think it ever really left. Even now, 9 years later, I still hear things. Voices, whispers just out of reach. I see shadows move when nothing should be there. I hear footsteps in my house when I'm alone. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, my heart pounding, an overwhelming feeling of being watched. And in the silence, just before I drift back into uneasy sleep, I hear it, a faint scraping sound, like a wooden planchette moving all on its own, waiting for me to ask another question.
You never really think a game will change your life. I'm sure you didn't. It was just a dumb board. Piece of cardboard with letters and numbers on it. Something we played with to scare ourselves. We weren't expecting real answers. We weren't expecting what happened that night. I was 12, maybe 13, spending the night at my friend Jake's house. It was just me, him, and his older sister Rachel. Their parents were out for that night, so we had the house to ourselves. Naturally, we wanted to do something creepy. That's when Rachel pulled out an old Ouija board. It wasn't new or flashy like the ones you see in stores. This one looked ancient, with the cardboard yellowed, the letters faded. She said she found it in the backyard. None of us really believed it would work, but we lit a few candles, turned off the lights, and gathered around it in the basement, fingers lightly resting on the planchette. At first, it was just gibberish, random letters, nonsense words. We giggled, accusing each other of pushing it. But then, The board started making sense. The planchette glided across the board. I can see you. I felt a chill creep up my spine. We laughed it off, but my hands felt clammy. Rachel asked, "Where are you?" The planchette moved again. "I can see you through the window." Our eyes darted to the tiny basement window. It was just a small square near the ceiling, barely big enough to see through. Beyond it, only the backyard, the driveway, and the woods beyond. Jake swallowed hard. "That's not funny." Rachel forced a laugh. "Okay, what else?" The planchette twitched beneath our fingers. "I can see you through his eyes." We all froze. His? Whose? I felt my skin crawl. The words didn't feel like a joke anymore. It felt targeted, watched. I turned to Jake. "Dude, I don't like this." But Rachel, always the fearless one, pushed forward. "Who's he? What do you mean?" The planchette shot across the board so fast, I thought someone yanked it. "I'm under the car." The basement went silent. Jake and I exchanged nervous glances. The only car in the driveway was his dad's, a big black SUV parked just outside. Rachel, ever the skeptic, grabbed a flashlight. "Fine, let's check." I wanted to say no. Every part of me screamed to stay inside. But somehow I found myself stepping into the cool night air with them. The yard was eerily quiet. No wind, no crickets, just silence. Rachel shone the flashlight under the SUV. A pair of glowing eyes stared back. A massive black cat, its fur bristling, its body low to the ground like it was ready to pounce. Its eyes, unnatural, locked onto us, its tail twitching. Then it hissed, a deep guttural sound that sent ice through my veins. Jake screamed. Rachel dropped the flashlight. We ran. We tore back into the house, slamming the door shut behind us. My heart was hammering in my chest. I felt like something had followed us inside, like those glowing eyes were still watching. Then, the lights went out. The house was plunged into darkness. Every lamp, every bulb, dead. The arm of the refrigerator cut out. The only sound was our ragged breathing. We stood frozen in the pitch-black basement. Rachel's voice shook. That's just a coincidence, right?" No one answered. A slow, creaking sound echoed from upstairs, like a footstep. I couldn't breathe. Jake clutched my arm so hard it hurt. Another creak. Closer. Rachel fumbled for her phone, trying to turn on the flashlight. Her hands were shaking too much. A third creak, right above us. I couldn't take it. I bolted for the matches we used for the candles, my fingers barely gripping them in the dark. I struck one. The flame flickered to life, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. The small glow made the basement feel even smaller, like the darkness was pressing in. And then the power came back. Lights flickered on. The fridge hummed again. The TV upstairs blared back to life. The house was normal, like nothing had happened. We sat huddled together until dawn, too afraid to sleep, too afraid to speak. The Ouija board sat untouched in the corner. Jake's parents came home early that morning. We didn't tell them. We never spoke about that night again. And we never ever touched the board after that. But sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I still feel like something is watching me. Through the window. Through someone else's eyes. Waiting.